At 3:17 a.m., he was sitting on the floor of his apartment, staring at his phone. No music, no notifications, just silence. An hour earlier, he had been fired, not dramatically, no yelling, no scene, just a short conversation. A polite smile and the sentence he still couldn't get out of his head. "We don't need you anymore." He wasn't angry. That scared him more. He felt empty. The kind of empty that doesn't hurt immediately, but slowly eats away at everything. You thought was stable. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. He checked his bank account. The number was smaller than he expected. Smaller than it should have been. Rent was due in 3 weeks at 29. He had imagined his life very differently. He thought he'd have direction by now, confidence, a sense of control. Instead, he had a cardboard box with his things and no idea what came. Next, what made it worse was that this wasn't his first failure or his second, or even his third. He had tried to do everything right. He went to school. He got the degree. He said yes to opportunities he didn't care about best they sounded. Responsible every time he told himself, this is temporary. But temporary turned into years. Friends moved on. Careers advanced. Lives upgraded. He stayed in the same place, telling himself stories about patience while quietly panicking inside. That night, sitting on the floor, he thought about calling someone, anyone, but he didn't. Because how do you explain that? You're exhausted from pretending you're okay. So instead, he did something small. He opened a notebook. The first page was blank. Like everything else in his life, he wrote one sentence. I don't want to live like this anymore. It wasn't a plan. It wasn't motivational. It was just honest. For years, he had been waiting for clarity, waiting to feel ready, waiting for confidence. None of that ever came. So he made a different rule. No more waiting. The next morning, he woke up early. Not because he was motivated, because he couldn't sleep. He made coffee, sat at the same small Mac desk. Opened his laptop. He didn't have a big idea, just a simple direction. Create something every day, something small, something real. No announcements, no expectations. The first attempts were bad, really bad, unclear, UNPOLISH, easy to ignore. If he had seen someone else doing this, he probably wouldn't have paid attention, but he kept going. Not because he believed it would work, but because it was the only thing that gave the day structure. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Nothing changed on the outside. No messages, no ICs, no growth, no sudden opportunity. The doubt was constant. Some nights he wondered if this was just another way to avoid reality, another distraction. But something strange was happening quietly. He was learning to sit with discomfort, to work without validation, to finish things even when they felt pointless. That alone changed him. He started waking up with intention, not excitement, just direction. The world didn't notice, but he did. Then, one evening, after uploading yet another piece of work, he noticed something different. A single message, not praise, not hype, just this. I needed this today. He read it again, and again. That message didn't change his life, but it changed his night. For the first time in years, he slept without that heavy pressure on his chest, because someone, somewhere, had felt something from what he created, and that meant this wasn't just noise. That message stayed with him longer than he expected, not because it was special, but because it was real. For a while, that was enough. He kept creating, kept showing up. But progress didn't suddenly accelerate. It never does. There were long stretches where nothing happened, no comments, no growth, no reason to believe things were improving. That's the part no one talks about. The middle, not the struggle at the beginning, not the success at the end. The long, quiet middle where effort feels invisible. He questioned himself constantly. Maybe he wasn't talented enough. Maybe he was late. Maybe this was just another phase that would fade. Some days he opened his laptop and stared at the screen for an hour, doing nothing. Other days he worked through the doubt, just to prove to himself that he still could. There were moments he almost quit. Again, not in anger, in exhaustion. Quitting felt logical, responsible, safe. But every time he thought about stopping, he remembered something important. This was the first thing he had ever stayed with after the excitement disappeared, so he stayed. Slowly, patterns began to form. He noticed which ideas connected with people, which words felt honest, which ones felt forced. He stopped trying to impress, stopped chasing trends. He focused on clarity, on usefulness, on showing up consistently. 1 year passed. From the outside, nothing had changed much. He was still unknown, still financially careful, still living simply, but inside, something fundamental was different. He trusted himself more, not because he had proof, but because he had discipline. Then, quietly, things shifted. One piece of work started gaining attention, not fast, not viral, just steady. A few people shared it, then a few more. It led others to his older work, which led them to more. For the first time, growth didn't disappear after a week. It stayed. He didn't celebrate. He didn't announce anything. He just kept working. Momentum is fragile. He knew that months later. Another project did well. Then another. Each success was small on its own, but together they changed the direction of his life. He didn't quit his job immediately. That mattered. He waited until the numbers made sense, until the stress was lower than the risk. When he finally walked away, it wasn't dramatic. No speeches, no victory post, just relief. Years later, people would ask him what changed everything. They expected a moment, a trick, a secret decision he never gave them. One, because the truth wasn't exciting. Nothing changed. Everything. What changed his life was choosing to stay when leaving was easier, was learning to work without applause, to build without guarantees, to accept boredom as part of progress. Success didn't arrive when he felt ready. It arrived when he stopped needing it to arrive quickly. By then, he wasn't chasing a different life anymore. He had built one. So, let's put it all together. He didn't win because he was special, or smarter, or luckier. He won because he stayed long enough for effort to compound, and most people don't.